Hello and welcome to week 14. So this is actually your final week in the textbook. We are finishing up the content of the course, and especially of Unit 6 as we're looking at really the health, safety, and nutrition education, as we're looking at how we help parents, how we help children. But this week, as we finish this up, we're looking at what do we need to do as teachers in order to make sure that we are planning instruction that helps children develop in the physical domain, which is health, safety, and nutrition. So if you look at our weekly page, you're going to see that it's a little smaller than in the past because we really are getting very close to the end. As a matter of fact, our last couple of weeks are really kind of a wrap up and conclusion and reflection section. So once you make it through this week, then you can definitely take a deep breath and feel like you are definitely at the end. So this week you're going to be looking at chapter 11 in your textbook, which deals with the planning aspect. So the last couple of weeks we've looked at how are we getting information and providing information to parents and to families. And so now it's important to understand that we have a responsibility to plan instruction that helps children develop in their physical domain. So chapter 11 in your textbook deals with lesson planning. And so as always, the PowerPoint is here for you to review as well. So as you're looking at your assignments for the week, you're going to notice that all you need to do this week is log in for your participation points. Because you are working on completing your parent night project, which is due at the end of this week, and starting to work on your lesson plan assignment, which I'm going to introduce in just a minute. I really feel like you've done so much work the last couple of weeks that I want to give you an opportunity to concentrate on these final assignments. So just make sure that I can see that you have logged in to this course by the end of the week so that you get your full participation points. So as I mentioned, your parent night project is due by the end of this week, so make sure that you get that in. And so I'm going to give you access to your final assignment, which is not due until the end of the semester, but it goes along with what we're doing in chapter 11, and it really is just a great culminating assignment for this course. So when you look at the mini lesson plan, so you will see that it's meant to be a mini lesson plan. Those of you who are in the early childhood program, you will understand that you are doing just a fraction of what you have to do on your lesson plan. So hopefully this one won't seem quite so daunting. So as we look at the instructions, the first thing to note is that this lesson plan has to deal with health, safety, or nutrition. If you turn in a lesson plan that is an art lesson plan, if it is a science lesson plan, you will receive a 0. This is so important to understand that we have to plan for this section, the health, safety, nutrition aspect of development, just as much as we need to plan for reading, writing, and addition. So make sure that you are spending time in the domain that looks at health, safety, nutrition, which in the milestones is going to be the physical health and development, which is the orange section. Now, talking about standards, my colleague has graciously recorded a video to help you understand how to use the milestones if you have not used them before. So if you are looking to do a lesson for children birth to 5, then you would use the milestones. And so I've clicked here so that you can see it's the entire resource. It's a PDF that you can certainly download and save. But again, in the milestones, you're only going to be looking at the orange section, which is the physical development section. If you are looking at 4-year-olds, you can also use the foundation blocks, which are, it's kind of the kindergarten readiness standards in the state of Virginia, but they're only for 4-year-olds. And then if you're looking kindergarten on up, then you have to use the standards of learning, which is what Virginia uses. And so they have two sections. They have a physical education and they have a health. And so you can directly link to there. And so then you are going to actually then get into your lesson plan. So here is a resource that explains each portion of the lesson plan, just so that if you need additional information. But I'm going to walk you through the template so that you can I can explain each one of the portions of it. So as it is downloading, really what you want to be doing is you want to think about, how am I going to teach children about something that relates to health, safety, or nutrition. So this could be something that deals again with food allergies. It could be something that has to do with fire safety. It could be anything, brushing your teeth, anything that relates to the health, safety, or nutrition aspect of development. So once you have done that, then you're going to start compiling your lesson plan based on a particular standard that meets that particular activity. So this is taking forever to load, so I'm just going to keep talking as it is opening. But in each one of the sections, you're going to be discussing or listing things that are going to apply to that particular activity. So I already mentioned the standard. And another thing that you're going to have to be thinking about is, what am I going to do during my lesson? And that's going to be really important because you're going to have to be able to list it step by step, just as if you were going to give it to a substitute teacher. So that they could teach it exactly the same way that you would. So you need to be thinking about, what am I going to do that's going to grab their attention, because we have to get them excited about something in order for them to pay attention to the rest of the lesson. And you also have to be thinking about, what am I going to do at the end of the lesson? And that's normally where you're going to be kind of wrapping everything up. Okay, so we finally have the template open. And so I've already talked through some of these things. And again, that resource is going to also take each one of the sections and fully explain it. But hopefully this will be helpful enough. So when you have your title of your activity, it does not have to be something that is earth-shattering, but it does need to tell me what it is that you're going to be doing. So again, if it's going to be about stop, drop, and roll, if it's going to be about brushing your teeth, if it's going to be about eating healthy, what is the title of your activity? And remember, this is not a thematic unit. This is not something that's going to take an entire week to do. This is one activity that you're going to do with the children that are in your care. So when you talk about the ages of children, again, this is not an age range. So you're not dealing with children from 3 to 5. You are dealing with 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds, kindergarten, first, second, third, whatever. It's one age group. And this is really important because you have to make sure that you're matching your standard and your activity to the age of the children that you're working with. When it comes to the format, you can choose to do your activity either as a large group, which would be the whole class, a small group, which is normally 3 to 4 children, or an individual, which is one-on-one. It really doesn't matter which one you choose. You just want to make sure that you choose the right format that's going to make sure that the majority of children have a chance to be successful with your lesson. And sometimes you have to do that one-on-one. For the main content area, I have already put down that it is health and safety. So you don't have to worry about that. And then you're going to get down to the parts that you need to fill in. So when you're looking at the concepts, this is going to be what's the skill or the skills that you're trying to teach them. So if it's about brushing their teeth correctly or eating healthy, concepts is going to be really important because this is saying this is the skill or the skills that I think are so important for children to learn that I'm going to do a lesson on it. When you get to the standard, this is where you need to make sure that you give all of the identifying information, and you're only choosing one standard. So you need to put the document title, so whether or not it's the milestones, the foundation blocks, or the Virginia Standards of Learning. Then you put the learning domain, which is going to be the section, so whether it's physical development, health education, whatever title of that section is, the page number that the standard is on, and then you need to actually write out the complete standard. So in the milestones, the standard is indicated with a letter and a number like A9. With the SOLs, it's going to be either, if it's kindergarten, then it's going to be K.1, K.5, something like that. And when you get into the grades, then it's going to have the grade as the number. So you want to make sure that not only you put the letters or the numbers, but you also need to write out the entire standard. And that's why we've given you electronic resources so you can just copy and paste. When you get to the learning objectives, this is written as a one sentence, and it's a formula that you follow, and it's the child will, and then you copy the standard when they, and then you put the activity name. And so it's one sentence. That's all that you need to put in there. When it comes to the rationale, this is where you are going to need to get into the textbook or some other resources to explain why it's important that children learn this skill. So it's not because you think it's important, it's because research says that it sets them up for success in another area. So this is where you really need to have a really strong paragraph that pulls in information that talks about the importance of children being able to learn that particular skill. The materials and aids, this is where you need to list anything and everything that you're going to be using in order to complete this assignment. And so you need to be so specific that someone else could teach it exactly the way that you're teaching, as I mentioned before. But with the materials, you also have to be so specific because when it comes to glue, there's different types of glue. So you want to make sure that you're being really specific. And then you get down to the teaching procedures. This is where, again, you're going to list step by step everything that you're going to do and say from the time that you gather them together to start the lesson until the time that you end it. And then these last two, considerations of variations in cultural and abilities differences. You need to make sure that every child in your classroom is able to complete this assignment. And so if they speak a different language, how are you going to accommodate for that? If you have a child who has a sensory processing disorder, how are you going to accommodate for that? So make sure you have at least two different ways that you could vary your lesson so that every child could be included. And then finally, the high quality resources. This is anything that you use to create this lesson. So everyone's going to have at least one resource, and that's going to be whatever standards you used. But if you got the idea from Pinterest, then you need to put that in there. If you got pictures or other materials that you're going to use from Google, then you need to put that in there. So if you came up with it completely on your own, then you're only going to have the standards. But if you used anything else to come up with this lesson or that's going to be used for this lesson, then it needs to be in the high quality resources. So hopefully that's a good explanation of what you're going to be doing for the mini lesson plan. Again, there is that resource in Canvas for you. that gives you a complete description of each one of those sections if you're unclear about something. But as I said, this week really concludes the meat of the course, and our last couple of weeks are just going to be a wrap up and conclusion. So don't forget to log in for your participation points. Don't forget to submit your parent night project. Please make sure that you review the rubric and the requirements. Make sure you have at least 20 slides. Make sure you have at least 10 facts. Make sure you have at least 5 suggestions for parents. Make sure you have at least 1 video. Make sure that it is visually appealing, so it's something that you're going to want to grab and catch their attention. Make sure you have a reference page. So just make sure that you review all of that before you submit it. So other than that, have a great time finishing up Unit 6, and I will see you for our final weeks.